Adam Williams was the type of person who lived in the fast lane, always moving, always achieving. At 36, he had it all: a thriving career in finance, a luxurious apartment in Manhattan, and a social circle that admired his success. But behind the carefully curated exterior, Adam felt a nagging emptiness deep inside him. The satisfaction he once found in his career was long gone, replaced by a constant sense of dissatisfaction. He spent his days analyzing markets, closing deals, and impressing clients. His nights, however, were spent alone, the silence of his apartment serving as a constant reminder of what he had sacrificed. Relationships had taken a backseat to his career, and his friends, though numerous, felt distant. Adam often found himself wondering when things had shifted, when he had stopped living for himself and started living for others' expectations. It was late one evening when Adam realized that he was no longer living, but merely existing. The thought hit him hard as he stared out the window at the city lights below. The buzzing energy of New York City, so vibrant and full of possibility, seemed almost foreign to him. He had built this life, but somewhere along the way, he had lost sight of what truly mattered. The realization was sobering. He needed a change, a break from the relentless grind that had defined his life for so long. But what did that look like? A career shift? A new hobby? Adam wasn't sure, but he knew one thing: he couldn't keep going down the same path. That night, after a long discussion with himself, Adam made a decision. He was going to leave everything behind for a while. He would take a sabbatical, a break from the corporate world, and spend time reconnecting with himself. He didn't have a destination in mind, only the desire to get away from the life he had known. The next morning, Adam walked into his office with a different mindset. The air in the office felt heavy with deadlines, but Adam was light. He was preparing to step away from it all. He handed in his resignation to his boss, explaining that he needed time to figure things out. His boss, surprised but understanding, offered him a few weeks off. But Adam knew this was it, he was done. He didn't need weeks, he needed months, maybe even longer. The conversation left him with a strange mix of emotions: relief, excitement, and most surprisingly, fear. What was he supposed to do with himself now? Could he really step away from everything and find something meaningful? He spent the next few days tying up loose ends, packing up his apartment, and making the necessary arrangements for his time away. Adam didn't tell anyone about his decision. His parents, friends, and colleagues would surely question him, try to convince him to stay, to keep climbing the ladder. But Adam knew that if he didn't do this now, he might never do it. 1 week later, Adam found himself on a flight to an unknown destination. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he needed to be far away from the life he had been living. The flight was long, and the reality of his decision began to settle in. For the first time in years, Adam didn't have a schedule to follow, a meeting to attend, or a deal to close. His only task was to figure out who he was without the title, without the expectations, without the constant pressure. Adam landed in Lisbon, Portugal, a city he had never been to, but one that had always intrigued him. The cobblestone streets, the history, the slower pace of life, it felt like the perfect place to clear his mind. As he wandered the city, Adam felt an odd sense of freedom. The world was so much bigger than the confines of his apartment or his office, and for the first time in a long time, he felt small in the best way possible. He spent the first few days exploring Lisbon's winding streets, visiting museums, trying new foods, and taking in the local culture. There was something calming about the city, the way time seemed to move slower, the way people seemed to savor their moments. It wasn't the fast-paced, cutthroat world Adam had left behind, and for once, it felt like he was in the right place. On the 4th day of his trip, Adam visited a small cafe tucked away in an alley. It was cozy, with just a handful of tables and a quiet, welcoming atmosphere. Adam ordered a coffee and sat by the window, watching the world go by. It was there that he met Lara, the cafe owner, a woman in her early 30s who had an easy smile and a calm demeanor. They struck up a conversation, and Adam found himself sharing more about his decision to take time off than he had with anyone in years. Lara listened intently, her eyes filled with understanding. "You know," she said, "sometimes the hardest thing in life is letting go. Letting go of the expectations, the pressure, the hustle. But it's also the most freeing thing you can do." Adam thought about her words for a moment. He had been so focused on proving himself, on achieving, that he had never stopped to think about what he truly wanted. "I've spent my life working towards things that were never really mine to begin with," Adam admitted. "I don't know who I am without my job, without the title." Lara smiled gently. "You are who you decide to be. Your job is just a part of your story, not the whole story. It's okay to take a step back and figure out what you really want. Her words stuck with Adam long after he left the cafe. It was as if he had been given permission to let go, to stop worrying about what others expected of him. In that moment, Adam realized that he had been running on autopilot for so long that he had forgotten how to truly live. For the rest of his stay in Lisbon, Adam took Lara's advice to heart. He spent his days reflecting on his life, journaling about his experiences, and reconnecting with the things that truly brought him joy. He learned to savor the quiet moments, to embrace uncertainty, and to stop seeking validation from external sources. As his time in Lisbon came to an end, Adam felt a sense of peace that had eluded him for years. He had no idea what his future held, but for the first time, he didn't feel the need to know. He had taken the first step on a new path, and that was enough for now. Adam woke up to the soft hum of the city outside his window. The first few days in Lisbon had been transformative. For the first time in a long while, he felt like he was experiencing life as it was meant to be, not dictated by deadlines or corporate goals, but by the simple act of existing in the moment. He had spent his days walking through the narrow streets, discovering hidden gems of the city, and allowing himself the space to breathe, to reflect, to simply be. Today, however, felt different. A sense of purpose had begun to form within him, and for the first time since arriving in Lisbon, Adam felt the need to dig deeper into his journey. His decision to leave everything behind had been impulsive, yes, but now it was time to take the next step. He couldn't just wander indefinitely. He needed to find something meaningful, something that connected him to the person he wanted to become. As he sipped his coffee and gazed out at the view of the Tagus River from his apartment window, Adam thought about what came next. He had given himself permission to step away from work, but that wasn't enough. It was time to stop running and start facing the hard questions. Adam had always been a man who thrived on structure. His life back in New York was meticulously planned out. Every goal, every achievement, every milestone was laid out with precision. But in Lisbon, none of that mattered. There was no rush, no pressure. It was as though the weight of his past had been lifted, leaving him with a blank slate. But what now? What did he want to do with this newfound freedom? The question lingered, but Adam knew he couldn't rush the answer. In the past, he had lived his life according to the expectations of others. First his parents, then his mentors, and ultimately, the corporate world. But here, in Lisbon, he had a rare opportunity to figure out what he wanted, not what anyone else thought was best for him. He decided to take a walk through the city. As he wandered through the old neighborhoods, with their faded pastel-colored buildings and the sounds of street vendors calling out in Portuguese, he allowed himself to get lost in the moment. There was something peaceful about the way life flowed here, without the frantic pace of New York. People seemed to move at a slower rhythm, savoring each step, each interaction, each cup of coffee. By late afternoon, Adam found himself sitting in a small park near the Alfama district. The park was quiet, shaded by tall trees, and the smell of fresh flowers mixed with the salty air of the river. He took out his journal and began writing, something he had not done in years. His fingers hesitated at first, unsure of where to begin, but slowly the words started to flow. What do I really want from life? The question was simple, yet it felt like a massive weight to carry. Adam had spent so much time building his career, acquiring success and wealth, but it hadn't brought him the fulfillment he had imagined. He had thought success would bring happiness, but instead, it had only brought a constant hunger for more. More promotions, more recognition, more validation. Is this all there is? He wrote. The truth of it stung. The constant chase, the long hours, the empty nights they had consumed him, leaving him hollow. It had been easy to ignore the emptiness, to drown it out with achievements and accolades. But now, in this foreign city, he had no choice but to face it. Adam put his pen down and looked around the park. Children were playing, elderly couples were strolling hand in hand, and a young woman was reading a book on a bench nearby. There was a simplicity to the scene that made Adam pause. People weren't rushing here. They weren't measuring their worth by how much they had accumulated or how fast they could move forward. They were simply living. It was a small moment, but it was enough to ignite something in Adam. He wanted that simplicity. He wanted to be able to look at his life without the noise, without the constant pressure to be more, to do more. He wanted peace. The following week, Adam visited a small yoga studio near the river. It was a modest space, with white walls, wooden floors, and the faint smell of incense in the air. He had never done yoga before, but something about it felt right. Perhaps it was the desire to connect with his body, to slow down, to move in a way that wasn't dictated by time or productivity. The class was small, only a handful of people, and the instructor, a calm woman named Sophia, welcomed him with a kind smile. As the class began, Adam felt awkward at first. His body was stiff from years of sitting at a desk, but as the session continued, he found himself relaxing. The slow, deliberate movements were a stark contrast to the frantic energy he was used to. For the first time in months, he felt his mind quieting, the pressure easing from his shoulders. After class, Sophia approached him. "It's good to see new faces," she said warmly. "Yoga isn't just about the body. It's about finding balance in your life, learning to be present in the moment." Adam nodded, grateful for her words. "I'm still trying to figure out what balance looks like," he said. Sophia smiled gently. "It's a journey, not a destination. Don't rush it. The answers will come when you stop searching so hard for them." That afternoon, Adam walked back to his apartment with a sense of calm he hadn't felt in years. Sophia's words echoed in his mind. Don't rush it. For the first time, he realized that life wasn't something to be conquered. It wasn't a series of goals to tick off a list. It was something to be lived, not rushed, not planned, but experienced. Adam decided to spend the next few weeks taking things slow. He would visit more places in Lisbon, meet people, and most importantly, spend time with himself. He no longer felt the need to have everything figured out. He didn't need a 5-year plan or a clear path forward. What he needed was to stop running and start living. As the days turned into weeks, Adam embraced this new pace of life. He spent his mornings writing in the park, his afternoons exploring the city, and his evenings attending yoga classes and talking to locals. Slowly, he began to find the peace he had been seeking. It wasn't a grand epiphany, but rather a quiet understanding that he was exactly where he needed to be. And for the first time, Adam realized that the journey wasn't about escaping his past. It was about accepting it and moving forward with a new perspective. He was learning, bit by bit, how to let go of the need for control and allow life to unfold naturally. As the weeks passed, Adam found himself slipping into a rhythm he had never known before. Lisbon, with its warm golden light and its rhythm that moved more like a gentle current than the bustling tide of New York, had become a sanctuary. The city, with its narrow streets and quiet alleys, had become both a literal and metaphorical path for Adam's own journey towards self-discovery. He had never imagined that simply being present in a moment, without the pressure of needing to accomplish something, would feel so freeing. The absence of deadlines, meetings, and the usual frenetic energy of the corporate world left space for thoughts, for introspection, and for an unsettling yet liberating awareness of who he was becoming. One evening, Adam sat at a small cafe overlooking the Tagus River, watching the sunset. The pink and purple hues of the sky seemed to reflect the inner calm he was beginning to feel. The river, slow and deliberate in its movement, reminded him of the path he was trying to walk. Slowly, with intention, not rushing or forcing things to happen. A man named Miguel, an older man who owned the cafe, had become a friend of sorts. They had exchanged casual greetings at first, but over time, their conversations had deepened. Miguel was a former architect, now retired, who had spent years traveling the world before returning to Lisbon to live a quieter life. His life, much like Adam's, had been shaped by ambition, but now, in his later years, Miguel found contentment in simplicity. "It's funny," Miguel said one day as they shared coffee, "how we spend so much of our youth chasing after what we think we want, only to find out, when we get there, that it's not what we needed at all." Adam nodded, feeling the weight of those words. He had spent years running in the corporate race, aiming for promotions, achievements, and a lifestyle that was supposed to bring him happiness. But now, in the stillness of Lisbon, he realized how hollow that pursuit had been. The conversation stayed with Adam as he walked home that evening. He had spent his life chasing things: wealth, status, and validation from the outside world. But now that he had stepped away, he had to ask himself the hardest question yet. Who am I when I'm not defined by what I do? The answer didn't come immediately. In fact, it still felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. But Adam had started to notice something. In the quiet mornings, when the world around him was just beginning to stir, he could hear his thoughts clearly. He no longer had to drown them out with work or distractions. And the more he listened, the more he began to understand that the fear he had always carried, the fear of failure, of being mediocre, of not living up to his potential, was rooted in his attachment to his past self. Adam had been holding on to an image of who he thought he was supposed to be. The corporate man, the go-getter, the one who never stopped striving. But the reality was that he didn't need to hold on to that image anymore. He was allowed to change, to evolve. And the process of letting go of surrendering the need to control everything was the path to his true self. It was a rainy afternoon when Adam finally decided to take the next step. He had been putting it off, too uncertain about his future, but now it felt right. After a morning of reflection and journaling, he called his former boss in New York. "Hi, Julia," Adam said when she picked up the phone. "I hope you're doing well." "Adam, it's been a while. How are you?" she replied, sounding pleasantly surprised. "I'm doing well," Adam said, his voice steady. "I'm calling because I've been reflecting a lot on my life and my career, and I've realized that it's time for a change. I've been on a sabbatical in Lisbon, and I think I'm ready to step away for good." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Wait, you're leaving? For good?" "Yes," Adam said, his heart racing. "I've made the decision. I think I've done everything I set out to do in that world. And now, I need to find something that truly speaks to me, something that aligns with who I am now." Julia was silent for a moment, and Adam could almost hear the surprise in her voice. "Well, I've got to say, I never thought I'd hear you say that, but if anyone can make this kind of change, it's you." Adam felt a weight lift off his chest. It wasn't easy to leave behind a successful career, but hearing Julia's supportive words made him realize that this was the right decision. It wasn't about quitting, it was about choosing a new path. In the weeks that followed, Adam took on more of what he had once considered indulgent: mindfulness practices, cooking classes, and even pottery lessons. He spent more time connecting with the locals, especially Miguel, whose wisdom about simplicity and fulfillment continued to guide him. The rhythm of his days felt slow but meaningful, like the city itself. One afternoon, as Adam sat on a park bench sketching the architecture around him, he realized that he wasn't trying to force things anymore. He wasn't trying to make something happen. For the first time in years, he was just letting life unfold naturally. By now, Adam had made up his mind about something else too. He wanted to write about his journey, not only to document the process of rediscovery, but to help others who might be stuck in a similar situation. He began drafting ideas for a book, one that combined personal storytelling with the insights he had gained through his transformation. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about sharing the lessons he had learned, the importance of letting go, and the power of living with intention. He didn't know how long it would take, but for the first time, Adam was comfortable with not having all the answers. He was comfortable with the journey itself. One evening, as Adam sat on the balcony of his apartment watching the sun set behind the river, he felt a sense of peace that he hadn't known in years. He had let go of his past, of his old identity, and in doing so, he had found something far more valuable than success: a sense of self, of inner peace, of belonging. Lisbon had become more than just a city to him. It had become a metaphor for his own life. Like the city, Adam was slowly being rebuilt, not with walls and structures, but with moments of quiet reflection, of patience, and of the courage to let go. The city of Lisbon had become Adam's canvas, the streets and winding alleys serving as his backdrop. He no longer needed to plan every moment or chase every opportunity. The urgency that had once dominated his life had dissipated, leaving a quieter, more contemplative version of himself. Adam wasn't in a hurry anymore. He had learned that real fulfillment didn't come from constantly striving for the next milestone. It came from being present in the moment and embracing life as it came. But even with this newfound peace, there were still moments when Adam wrestled with uncertainty. The prospect of a future without a rigid plan was both exciting and intimidating. He had left his old life behind without a clear destination in mind, and sometimes that nagging question resurfaced. What now? It had been a few weeks since he left the corporate world behind, and while he felt more connected to himself than he had in years, there was still a longing for something deeper, something more meaningful than the daily routine of yoga and walks through the city. One evening, as Adam sat at a small cafe in the Barro Alto district, sipping his espresso, he overheard a conversation at the next table. It was a group of young people, speaking animatedly about their work. The words social impact, sustainability, and changing the world floated through the air, piquing Adam's interest. He had heard these terms before, but this time, they struck a chord. As the conversation continued, Adam couldn't help but feel drawn to their passion. He had spent most of his career focused on personal success, climbing the corporate ladder without thinking about how he could make a positive impact on the world around him. But sitting in the cafe, listening to their stories, he realized that there was more to life than personal achievement. There were greater things he could contribute to, things that could leave a lasting mark on the world. It wasn't just about making money or acquiring status anymore. He could be part of something bigger, something meaningful. He wanted to use his skills, his experience, to help make the world a better place. That evening, Adam couldn't shake the thought of these young people and their dedication to social causes. He walked back to his apartment and immediately began searching online for organizations and initiatives that focused on sustainable development, social impact, and corporate responsibility. There were countless groups, and as Adam sifted through their mission statements, something sparked within him. It was as if a door he hadn't known existed had opened, revealing a path he hadn't considered before. The next morning, Adam woke up with a new sense of purpose. His time in Lisbon had been about healing and rediscovery, but now it was time to take that next step to put his skills and knowledge to work in a way that truly mattered. He wasn't sure what that would look like yet, but he knew he had to begin somewhere. He reached out to several organizations, offering his expertise in finance and project management. He didn't expect a quick reply after all. He had no formal experience in social impact or sustainable development. But it didn't matter. He felt a sense of excitement he hadn't felt in years. He was no longer bound by the pressure to be perfect or to follow a set career path. He was following his heart. Days passed, and Adam continued to meet people in Lisbon who shared his new vision for the future. One afternoon, he received an email from a nonprofit organization focused on environmental sustainability. They were in need of a financial advisor to help manage their funds and develop a sustainable business model. The organization was relatively small, but had ambitious goals, and they were looking for someone who could help them grow while staying true to their mission. Adam's heart raced as he read the email. This was it. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. It wasn't a large corporation or a lucrative deal, but it was exactly what he had been looking for, a chance to make a real impact on the world. He quickly drafted a response, expressing his interest in the role and his excitement about the possibility of working with them. Within a few days, he had a meeting scheduled. When the day of the meeting arrived, Adam made his way to the office of the organization, which was located in a small building in the Alfama district. The office was modest but filled with energy. Posters about climate change, renewable energy, and social justice adorned the walls, giving the space a sense of purpose and passion. Adam was greeted by Maria, the founder of the organization, a woman in her late 40s with short, curly hair and a welcoming smile. "Welcome, Adam. We're so glad you could make it," she said, shaking his hand. The conversation quickly turned to their mission and the work they were doing to address environmental challenges in Portugal and beyond. Maria spoke with conviction, and Adam could see the depth of her commitment to the cause. She had started the organization years ago, and although it wasn't the largest nonprofit in the world, it was making a difference in the communities it served. Adam shared his background in finance and explained how his experience in the corporate world could help the organization secure funding, develop a strategic plan, and manage its finances more effectively. Maria listened intently, nodding in agreement. "We need someone who understands the complexities of the financial world," she said. "But more than that, we need someone who understands why we're doing this. It's not just about numbers, it's about making a difference. Can you help us with that?" Adam's chest tightened as he realized how important this was. This wasn't just a job or a career opportunity. This was his chance to contribute to something meaningful, to use his skills in a way that could bring real change. He nodded without hesitation. "I can help," he said. "I'm committed to this. Let's make a difference together." The following weeks were a blur of meetings, brainstorming sessions, and long hours of planning. Adam dove headfirst into his new role, working alongside Maria and the team to develop a sustainable business model for the organization. He was still learning about the specific challenges of the nonprofit sector, but his background in finance helped him understand how to make the organization more efficient, more financially stable, and better equipped to reach its goals. As Adam worked alongside the team, he felt more alive than he had in years. This was the work that had been missing in his life, a purpose that transcended personal gain and made a tangible impact on the world. One evening, as Adam sat in his apartment reflecting on the day's work, he realized how far he had come. He had left behind a successful career to follow a path that was uncertain and undefined. But now, for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. Lisbon had given him the space to rediscover himself. And now, it was giving him the chance to change the world one step at a time. The weeks flew by in a blur of activity. Adam had fully immersed himself in his new role at the environmental nonprofit, and with each passing day, he felt more connected to the mission and the team. The work was challenging, but it was the kind of challenge he had longed for, one that stretched him in ways his corporate job never had. He found himself spending long hours drafting proposals for new projects, collaborating with experts in the field, and even negotiating with potential donors who were aligned with the organization's values. It was all so different from the high-stakes, profit-driven world he had come from. But this felt meaningful. He wasn't just moving money around or adding to a bottom line. He was contributing to a cause he truly believed in. But the impact of Adam's decision wasn't just limited to his work. As he became more involved in the organization's efforts, he found himself surrounded by people who shared his newfound sense of purpose. It wasn't just about changing the world. It was about doing something together, as a community. One day, while having lunch at a local park with his colleague Sophia, Adam reflected on how much had changed since his arrival in Lisbon. "You know," Adam began, pushing his sandwich aside and looking at the river flowing nearby. "I never thought I'd be here, doing this kind of work. When I was back in New York, it always felt like I was working towards something, but I didn't know what. I thought I had to climb higher, achieve more, get more recognition. But now, I see that I was missing the point entirely." Sophia nodded thoughtfully. She was a young, passionate environmental scientist who had joined the organization a few months before Adam. Her enthusiasm and dedication to the cause had been infectious, and she had become a close friend during his time in Lisbon. Months had passed since Adam made his commitment to the nonprofit, and the transition from his corporate life to his current role felt like a distant memory. The uncertainty, the doubts, the fear of failure, they had all been replaced by a quiet confidence and a deep sense of purpose. Every day felt like a step forward, not just for the organization, but for Adam himself. He was no longer living for the next big promotion or chasing a title. His life had become about impact, and the more time he spent working on meaningful projects, the more he understood that true fulfillment was something deeper than he had ever realized. One afternoon, as Adam was sitting in the office with his team, reviewing the progress of their latest project, Maria entered with a broad smile on her face. She had a look in her eyes that Adam recognized, one of excitement and anticipation. "Adam," she said, "I just spoke with a potential partner. They are a large international foundation, and they are interested in supporting our work. They've heard about what we're doing here, and they want to invest in us." Adam sat up straight. This was the kind of opportunity the organization had been waiting for, the kind that could scale their impact exponentially. "This is huge," Adam said. "What do they need from us?" "They want to see a proposal, a strategic plan for how we'll use the funding, how we'll measure impact, and how we'll grow sustainably," Maria said, her tone focused. "I know you've been working on refining our processes, and I think we're ready to present. This could be the breakthrough we've been working toward." Adam's heart raced. This was the kind of moment he had been working towards. It wasn't just about securing funding. It was about the opportunity to transform the way the organization worked, to reach even more people, and to make a greater impact than ever before. The next few days were a blur of meetings, presentations, and late-night brainstorming sessions. Adam, along with the team, pored over every detail of the proposal, making sure it was solid. This was their chance to demonstrate everything they had been building, to show the world that their mission mattered. As Adam worked on the proposal, he found himself reflecting on how far he had come. When he had first arrived in Lisbon, he had been lost. He had left behind a successful career because he knew it wasn't fulfilling him, but he had no idea what was next. Now, he was leading a team, shaping the future of an organization, and contributing to a cause that was bigger than anything he had worked on before. The path had not been easy, but it had been worth every step. When the day of the presentation arrived, Adam stood in front of a room full of stakeholders, both local and international. The room was filled with people who had the power to change the course of the nonprofit's future. Adam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment, but he wasn't nervous. He had worked tirelessly with his team to prepare, and he believed in what they were doing. He began by talking about the organization's mission, its impact in local communities, and how their approach to sustainability and social responsibility was making a difference. He spoke about the projects they had successfully implemented, from waste reduction programs to clean energy initiatives, and how these efforts were empowering individuals and transforming entire neighborhoods. But what set this presentation apart was the shift in Adam. He wasn't talking just about the work, he was talking about why it mattered. The passion he had found in his new life was now the driving force behind his words. "This isn't just about securing funding," Adam said to the group. "It's about creating a lasting impact on people's lives. It's about ensuring that the work we do today can help future generations. We are not just building programs, we are building a legacy." As he spoke, he could feel the energy in the room change. There was a palpable shift, a sense of alignment between his vision and the group's. The proposal wasn't just about numbers and metrics. It was about the story behind those numbers. It was about the lives they were changing, the communities they were uplifting, and the impact they were making on the environment. The next day, Maria called Adam into her office. He could tell from the look on her face that something significant had happened. "Adam," she said, "I just got off the phone with the foundation. They love the proposal. They're moving forward with funding. They want to start working with us immediately." Adam couldn't help but smile. It was a victory, a moment that solidified everything they had worked for. The nonprofit was about to take a huge step forward, and Adam was at the helm of that progress. But the victory was bittersweet. It was a reminder that he was no longer part of the fast-paced, competitive world he had once known. He had shed that identity, and with it, the pressure to keep climbing. Now, he was part of something that would outlast him, something that had the potential to change the world. That evening, Adam took a walk along the river, reflecting on everything that had happened. The city of Lisbon, with its intricate streets and old-world charm, had become his home in ways he never expected. It was here that he had found peace, clarity, and purpose. It was here that he had learned to let go of the old version of himself and embrace a life that was less about success and more about meaning. As he watched the sun set over the water, he realized that this journey, this winding, unpredictable path, was far from over. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid of what lay ahead. The uncertainty had become a friend, not a foe. He no longer needed to control everything. He just needed to show up, be present, and continue to do the work that mattered. Adam smiled as he took a deep breath, watching the colors of the sky shift from pink to purple, from purple to dark blue. The world, in all its vastness, was still full of endless possibilities, and he was exactly where he was supposed to be. "You're not alone in feeling that way," Sophia said. "I think a lot of people who come from the corporate world have the same experience. They've been so focused on career success that they lose sight of what truly matters. It's only when you step outside of that world that you can see what was missing." Adam smiled. "It's strange. I thought I would be more satisfied when I reached certain milestones. But I wasn't. It was like I was constantly running on a treadmill, never getting anywhere meaningful." "I understand," Sophia said, her eyes bright with understanding. "But now you're doing something real. Your work matters. Our work matters." As Adam's work with the nonprofit began to gain traction, he started to see the effects of his efforts ripple through the organization. His proposals for sustainable projects were gaining support from various stakeholders. The team had successfully launched a new initiative aimed at reducing waste in local communities, and Adam's strategic planning had helped secure funding to scale the program. But more than that, Adam began to see the change in himself. He no longer measured his success by how much money he earned or the promotions he received. He began measuring his success by the impact he had on others, the lives he had touched, the projects he had helped bring to life, and the knowledge that he was contributing to something bigger than himself. One morning, as Adam was leaving the office, Maria, the founder of the organization, approached him with a smile. "Adam, I've been meaning to talk to you," she said. "Your work has been invaluable. Not only have you brought new ideas to the table, but you've also helped the team think bigger. I think you're ready for more." Adam raised an eyebrow. "More? What do you mean?" Maria chuckled softly. "I've been thinking about it for a while, and I want you to lead the next phase of our growth. We've been getting more attention from larger organizations, and with the momentum we've built, we need someone with your background to guide us through the next stage. It's a big responsibility, but I believe you're ready." Adam's heart raced. He had been enjoying the work, but leading a larger initiative felt like a huge step. He wasn't sure if he was ready for such a role, but at the same time, he felt a sense of excitement. For the first time in a long while, he was being offered an opportunity that aligned with his values and passions. It wasn't about climbing a corporate ladder anymore. It was about making a meaningful difference in the world. "Thank you for thinking of me," Adam replied, his voice steady. "I'd be honored to take on this responsibility. I'll give it everything I have." In the weeks that followed, Adam worked closely with Maria and the rest of the team to map out the organization's next steps. His role as the lead for the next phase of growth brought new challenges, but it also allowed him to put his skills to use in ways he had never imagined. The most rewarding part of the job, however, was seeing the direct impact of their work on the communities they served. Adam had the privilege of visiting some of the local initiatives that were being implemented, meeting people whose lives were being transformed by the organization's projects. The sustainable farming techniques they were promoting were helping small farmers increase their crop yields while reducing environmental damage. The waste reduction programs were improving the quality of life in underprivileged neighborhoods, teaching people to repurpose and recycle instead of throwing things away. Adam realized that the ripple effect of his decision to leave his corporate job was more profound than he had ever imagined. By letting go of his old life, he had allowed himself to step into a new role, one that not only aligned with his values but also allowed him to create positive change in the world. The work was far from easy, and there were setbacks along the way, but Adam no longer feared the uncertainty. He had found his purpose, and that purpose was bigger than anything he could have ever imagined when he was climbing the corporate ladder. One evening, as Adam walked through the city, he stopped at the riverbank where he had sat many months ago, contemplating his life. He stood there for a moment, letting the cool breeze wash over him, taking in the quiet beauty of the moment. He had come a long way since that day. He was no longer the man driven by the need to achieve and succeed at any cost. He had learned that the real success came from living with intention and finding fulfillment in the things that truly mattered. Adam smiled to himself, knowing that the journey was far from over. But for the first time in his life, he was exactly where he was meant to be.